The World Tomorrow. The Worldwide Church of God presents Herbert W. Armstrong.
And I'm here to bring you the truth. No one else is telling you the things that God is telling you through me. He's speaking through me.
The Lord let me experience what it is to be a new bride. You know, I'm not worried about what I'm about to say, though it may be graphic. We're coming to the Lord, and if you can take it, beyond the veil is the chamber. That's the wedding chamber. The Lord told me that.
But from then on, visions begin to come. When this comes up on me, it produces a vision. I'm able to tell people what's wrong with them, what they must do in life, and the sins that they are holding back in their life.
God is going to be moving mightily and fast like He never has before, both hastening in judgment and hastening in the fulfillment of His eternal plan for the sons of God.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cult Next Door podcast. Before I jump into anything about today's episode or any of the usual preamble that we do, I just want to say a thank you from me and from Ashley for all of you coming back week after week and listening to this podcast and sharing it. And it's really grown. And also not just a thank you on my behalf, but on behalf of all of the people who have been guests on the podcast. I know how meaningful it was for me as somebody telling my story in this format. I know it's meaningful to them. So again, thank you all for coming back week after week and for that support that you all have shown. So before we move on to today's episode, just a reminder to go follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all those socials. Also, you can leave a voice message. We don't have one to share today, but if you would like to leave one that might be featured at the beginning of the show, you can find the link for that at the top of the episode description that you are listening to right now. Also want to do our double portion club shout outs. Got Shanda and Chase, Heather Bartlett, Carla, Julia B, and Tamara Smith. Thank you all very much for your support. If you, listener, would like to be in that club, it's $10 a month. You get ad-free episodes and a shout out. Or you can pay $5 a month to support the work and you'll get ad-free episodes and we'll send you a cool holographic Cult Next Door sticker. We've sent out so many of those that I had to order 100 more. Those just came in this week, so we're restocked and good to go. Also, just in the case that you did not hear last week's intro, we have officially eclipsed 500,000 downloads on this podcast, which is mind-blowing to me. And of course, that is not hyperbole to say that that is completely you guys, the listeners that have driven that to those heights. And I'm looking forward to where we go in the next year, 2, 3, however long this thing keeps going. So today's episode is our third and final part with Mindy. Let's take a listen.
And I feel so dumb even to this day thinking back about like what I said, but I was in shock and I was like, what is happening here? So the words that came out of my mouth didn't make sense and they were pretty dumb, but I was just like, well, you know, when the time is right, maybe we could help you find somebody, you know, just thinking like, stop talking, please.
Right. Yeah.
Just stop. I can't even hear this right now. And his response to me was, oh, no, that won't happen. God already told me. I already know who it is. And man. I'm glad nobody asked him at that time. And I don't think he would have told us anyways. But it was just like so gross to like, my mom is still in the room. What are you doing?
Totally.
Well, that was middle of April. My dad's birthday is the end of May 25th. So barely a month later, we are going to the zoo for my dad's birthday, like all the kids and their spouses and their kids. And again, I have this 5-month-old infant and a 4-year-old child. And my husband was at work. I didn't want to go to the zoo that day. And I was just like, you guys have fun. I can't do this. You know, like it's just too much for me by myself.
Yeah.
But they put so much pressure on me and they were like, no, we'll help you with the baby, blah, 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 all this stuff. So I'm like, fine. So somehow I ended up having to ride in the car with my dad. Nobody else, just me and my dad and my kids. And the whole ride to and from, he was just trying to convince me that he should get remarried. He started asking me, like, how soon do you think is too soon to start seeing somebody else? And I was like, well, now it's too soon. It's been a month, 6 weeks. Like, yeah, not now. I said, I don't know, maybe a year, couple years from now, maybe. And he also at that time, like right after my mom died, he had all of us girls literally the next day clean out her stuff, like go through all her stuff, get it out of his room. He redecorated, got new bedding, got all her stuff out of his closet, got all her stuff out of his bathroom. He put it all up on the other side of the house and then made us come and go through it the next day after she died.
Wow.
Which, yeah, I guess I didn't think much of that at the time, but it was pretty weird to just like, how do you clear? Because they'd been married almost 40 years, like 37 years or something to that effect. Like, you just move them out of your room the next day? Bizarre. The other thing that was really bizarre was the day she died, we got home from the hospital and he started having us shred papers. Like he wasn't very organized in his life and he just had stacks and stacks of financial documents like upstairs in his office area. And he had people just shredding financial documents. And he had my brother-in-law, I heard him tell my brother-in-law, my brother-in-law's a notary. So he said, notarize something that gives me power of attorney over Mary, my mom, who passed away. But he didn't realize that once somebody's gone, the power of attorney is no longer in effect. He also the very next day put his name on my mom's mother's bank account. She was 95, living in a nursing home. Like he didn't need to put his name on her bank account at all. My mom's sister was still alive, that wasn't. So just a lot of things right after my mom's passing that were weird.
You're right.
And my dad's real shady financially anyways, as we talked about. So, who knows what all of that was about? I still don't know to this day. But the other thing is my sister-in-law was still living there at the house. And even though my mom had been in the hospital Saturday, Sunday, Monday, now it's Monday night, we come back home and she's acting like she's just going to keep living there. And so my younger sister and my sister-in-law, my older brother's wife, they were like, no, this isn't happening. And they started packing up her stuff and moving it out. So she was crying and sobbing and like literally saying, I just don't feel like that's my home anymore. I feel like this is my home. And we were like, what do you mean? Like, what happened to avoid the appearance of evil? Because that was a big thing for us growing up. And the whole thing about like never being alone with the opposite gender person, like whether you're in a relationship or not, you shouldn't ever be alone in the same place with them. So I'm like, how do you think that's going to look to people in the church if she just stays here now? That doesn't make any sense. Well, so then I had all this other stuff going on in my life with an infant and all these things. So I wasn't noticing all the weird stuff between them quite yet. But my sister and my sister-in-law were cued off because of that interaction where she didn't want to leave the house that day after my mom died. So then my sister and her husband and my brother and his wife, my older brother and his wife, the four of them kept talking about what's he doing. And they all lived in the same neighborhood too. And so did my younger brother's wife. So they would watch and follow my dad. And they kept
Okay.
catching him sneaking over to her house.
Oh
And
my God.
they caught him inside her house one time. My brother was like, "What do you think you're doing? Get out of here. This is not good." So they called Ed Dufresne, who was then, supposedly my dad's spiritual
Yeah.
father,
Advisor.
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And asked him, like, would you please come and have a meeting with us as a family? Because this is what my dad's doing and it's weird and we don't feel okay about
Mhm.
this. So he said, yeah, fine, I'll come, but don't tell your dad that you called me, because there's this hierarchy of spiritual authority, and we're not supposed to, our dad is our spiritual authority. We're not supposed to go over his head.
Oh,
And
God.
so, yeah. So we did, because like, what are we going to do? He won't listen to us because he says
Yeah.
he's our spiritual authority. So we have no authority over him to tell him what
Yeah.
he should or shouldn't be doing. So this Dufresne guy, he decides to come and have a meeting. But of course, he has to preach and get an offering first. Like, we have to pay him. He's not just going to come,
Right. Mm.
And every time, because my dad was a brown noser, every single time he would come, my dad would try to give him personally like 10 grand, plus take several offerings and give those to him as well.
Whoa.
So yeah, I guess that's some incentive to be your friend.
Yeah.
So he came, and I went to my dad's house that day to give him a haircut before the service. And he starts talking to me about why Ed Dufresne's coming to see us in the first place. Well, I know why, but he doesn't. So I'm just listening to what he has to say. So he's like, yeah, he's just coming to check up on you guys and see how everything's going since your mom passed away. And by this time it's July from April when she died. And so I said, oh, really? I said, how do you think we're all doing since she died? And he said, well, some of you are doing better than others. But, emotions just weren't allowed at all. Like, we couldn't be happy. We couldn't be sad. None of that was acceptable. So grief, absolutely not. No way.
Yeah.
You just have to move on as though nothing ever happened. You can't
Yeah.
pause and be sad about your mom passing away. That's not okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also by this time, on the zoo day, when he took me I had to ride with him, he's trying to convince me he should get remarried. So I'm starting to think, like, what's going on here?
Right.
And then he
yeah.
also tried to bribe me with giving me a piece of my mother's furniture that, like, when we went through her stuff and separated everything out, like, there were a few pieces we left with my dad because we didn't know what to do with. One of them was a pretty large armoire cabinet for jewelry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she had bought that. She saved up for a really long time. It was from, like, I don't know, Bombay and Company or something like that. It was kind of an expensive furniture store back then. And it's like cherry wood. I don't know. It was a large cabinet. And so because none of us wanted to say, I want that, because it wasn't fair for the other sisters to have it. So he tried to bribe me with that cabinet. And at first I wasn't going to take it because I was like, no, you can't manipulate me that way. But then I was like, you know what? No, I want that. And I will take it. And you still can't manipulate me.
Yeah.
And I'm just not going to do what you want me to do because of it.
Yeah.
So, so I did take it, and he didn't get to bribe me that day, but we got back to his house after the zoo. And my brother had called me from Fort Benning. He gets, one phone call a week for like 15 minutes or whatever. So he had called me, and I was talking to him when I pulled into my dad's driveway. And my dad was out pushing my niece, my brother's daughter, on a swing. And it was so weird to me because he never played with us growing up as kids. Never, ever, ever do I remember him ever pushing any of us on a swing, nor any of our kids, like any of his other grandkids. He wasn't the kind of grandpa that would get down on the floor and play with the kids at all. Like, he just didn't care. And so to see him pushing my niece on a swing was really strange to me. But I had my brother on the phone and I was like, hey, your daughter's right here. Would you like to say hello to her? And he was like, oh my gosh, yes. So I go to hand her the phone and my dad says, nope. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, you better go ask her mom before you let him talk to her on the phone. And I was like,
What?
excuse me? So I went into the house where she and my older sister were cooking, a meal or whatever. And I was like, okay, this is dumb, but I'm just going to ask you because my dad said so. Can your husband talk to his child on the phone? And she said, no, I'm not comfortable with that. And I was like, wait, what is happening? And so then at that point, his time on the phone call was already up anyways. So he couldn't, like, even if she would have said yes, there wasn't time left. But she didn't say yes. So then at that point, I kind of lost it a little bit. And I was like, that's not okay. And also, people are going to start talking that there's something going on between you and my dad. And I had no idea that my siblings were already discussing this amongst themselves and keeping it from me on purpose because I'm close with my brother and they didn't want me to tell him.
Oh.
And I don't, why? Why can't he know?
Yeah.
Because if you're not doing anything wrong, then why can't I tell him?
Right.
And so I didn't say anything to him at that point, but I did get into a pretty big argument with his wife at the time and one of my older sisters because she kind of stepped in too. And I was like, this isn't about you. Actually, I'm talking to her. And I was just saying, like, this is inappropriate. You should not be having this type of a relationship with my dad. People are going to start talking. This is weird. And then when I went home, my younger sister called me and she was like, so this has already been a thing and we've been kind of keeping it from you because we didn't want you to tell our brother. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So then I had also confronted him. I confronted my dad later on because they had gone to a conference in California to like one of these camp meeting things where it's meetings every day. And they had loaded up a bunch of people from the church and my dad and a few of my siblings and their families had gone. And so one of my friends had gone too. So my dad was supposed to share a room with my older brother. And then my sister-in-law was supposed to share a room with one of my friends. And they get to the hotel and both of them, my dad and my sister-in-law, switched their room assignments to be by themselves. Like they each had their own room now. And coincidentally, they ended up on the same floor, which was a separate floor from everyone else, and they had conjoining rooms.
Yeah,
and
we
so,
knew where this was going.
Yeah. So there was a picture posted from breakfast one of the days of this convention, and everybody else was in the picture except for my dad and my sister-in-law. And so this was my friend that was supposed to room with her that had posted the picture. So I made a comment on underneath her picture on Facebook and I said, looks like there's some people missing from your picture. That's all I said. Because she had called me and said she thought it was weird that my sister-in-law switched her room assignment. And she's the one who told me they were on the same floor in conjoining rooms. So like other people are noticing this now. So when they got back from that meeting, my dad called me into his office to confront me like I'm the one who did something wrong.
Yeah, always.
Oh, man, that was so fun for me because I went in there with like, no, that's not what's going to happen here today. I will confront him, as a matter of fact. And so he starts out by telling me I shouldn't have made, and he also had started preaching against Facebook at that point too. You shouldn't have a
Yeah.
Facebook account. Facebook is the devil, all of this.
Mm.
Convenient. So he calls me into the office and he starts trying to shame me for making a comment. And what did you mean by that? And I was like, that everyone who went on the trip wasn't in the picture. Like, were they? Were lies spoken? You know? And he was like, well, no, but it seems like you're insinuating something. And I said, are you feeling guilty? Did you do something you shouldn't have done? Because I didn't mention your name. Like, why are you acting like this? And then I said, let me just ask you straightforward question. Are you in a relationship with my sister-in-law? And he said, I'm not going to answer that question. And I said, that's the answer I needed, because if the answer was no, you would say no. And you just said, I will neither confirm nor deny. So that tells me all I need to know. And then he was like, no, I'm not saying that, but I wouldn't back down because I knew what was happening. And so I said, I looked at my watch and I said, at, this June, whatever, at this time of day, I am going to look back and tell everyone that you lied to me. And he was like, I'm not lying. I just won't tell you. And because I wouldn't back down, he actually, now a little hindsight, my dad is not a physically active person. He recently had a double bypass surgery because he had like a 90% blockage in his heart. So he doesn't run. I've never seen him exercise in my entire life. He is a small person. But he just isn't fit. And so that day he got up out of his chair, left his office, and there were other people in their offices in the building as well. So I got up, followed him out of the office, continued, yelling at him. So then I hear these doors closing in the office of other people.
Oh, wow.
Like, uh-oh, we're not going to listen to this. But he literally walked out the back door of the church and his house was up the hill and he ran as fast as he could. I've never seen this man run before in his life. And I'm yelling after him like, you're not going to lie to me and get away with it or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
He ran so fast away from me up to his house. Like he just couldn't run fast enough. So then I was just like, okay, I think I accomplished what I set out to accomplish that day. So then he called me the next day and he was like, I think we need to have another conversation, but would you come to my house this time? He didn't want the other people hearing.
He didn't want to have to run again.
I was going to say he's probably sore.
I was like, if you're going to make me take the Green Mile to your bedroom, the answer is no.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God.
But that time I went to his house. I just sat there and let him say whatever baloney he was going to spout because I didn't believe him and he knew it. And so then after he was done, I was like, is that it? And he was like, yeah. I was like, can I go now? And he's like, I guess. And I was like, deuces. Just left because you can lie all you want, but I know your number now. Like I'm not taking it anymore. So that was in June. So then Dufresne comes in July and my dad thinks he's just coming to check on like how we're dealing with our grief after our mom's death. So I asked him, how do you think we're doing? And he's like, well, some of you are doing better than others. I said, oh, really? He goes, yep, like you are not doing that great. I was like, okay.
Thanks, Dad.
This is the start of your campaign. Okay. And so I was like, well, I guess we'll see what he has to say then. Because again, I knew that's not why he was there.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to sit and argue with my dad about it either. So that night after the service, my brother had just come home from his basic training. And he was asked to come to that meeting that night, even though like he wasn't really attending church at that time or whatever. So he showed up at the meeting afterwards. He didn't go to the service, but he showed up to the house where we were all sitting. And he sat in between myself and my oldest sister. And they had had a tight relationship too, because they had owned a house together for a while, and he helped her after her divorce with her kids and stuff. So they were pretty close. So, I think he felt the safest with me and her. And so we're sitting there, and Dufresne asks, like, does anybody have anything they want to say? And so he was going to make us start it.
Oh.
Like, oh my God. So we're all sitting there, like, literally not saying anything. And then my oldest sister reaches over and puts her hand on my brother's arm and just says, this is going to be really hard, but I need you to sit and listen for a minute before you react.
Yeah.
So I like grabbed his other hand at that point. And then she just started in telling Dufresne like what was going on, and that we keep catching him like with Drew's wife. And so my dad literally sat there the whole time with his head just down. He wouldn't look at us. He wouldn't say anything. I've never seen anything like that before. And I don't know for sure why. Like, was he ashamed? He should have been, but I don't think he was. I think he was just refusing to participate in the conversation. I'm not sure. But my other siblings were having a hard time being direct in their confrontation of what he was doing. They were kind of beating around the bush. They were kind of giving him little excuses and ways that he could have an out. And I wouldn't do that. I was just being very direct and saying exactly what he was doing, exactly what he was saying. So Dufresne looks at me at one point and he goes, "Are you calling your dad a liar?" And I said, "That's not a word I used. You used that word, not me. But if that's what you think, then okay. I mean, I'm not calling him a liar, but if that's how you're hearing it, then I'm just saying he's not being truthful." Uncorrectly saying he's a liar. And my other siblings were getting mad at me too, like wanted me to shut up. But I was like, what are we doing here then? None of you guys are going to be straight out and confront it. I'm not going to shut up. This needs to be dealt with. And I was personally waiting for that meeting to see if Dufresne would reprimand him in any way or tell him like what he was doing was wrong. Then maybe I could stay at the church. And if not, I had to go because there was no way I could go along with this. And so Dufresne never did tell him he was doing anything wrong. He never reprimanded him. He never told him to get his act together. This is the appearance of evil. This will ruin your ministry. Like nothing. Actually, he performed the ceremony when they got married a couple months later.
Eek.
Yeah. So they got married, I think, January. My mom had died in April and they got married the following January, I want to say.
So did she like get a quick divorce from your brother? That's like a 2-step.
Yeah. My dad actually counseled her to divorce my brother. He also bought her a car, paid for a place for her to live, paid all her bills, paid for her divorce attorney. Meanwhile, my mom didn't even get a headstone on her grave. So, yeah. I think that was a pretty interesting thing because there was another part, and it's my brother's part, but it is an interesting part of the story. When he got home from his basic training, and it was like the day before that meeting with Dufresne, he asked my dad to go to lunch with him. And at lunch, he asked my dad if he would help him revive his marriage. Like, help me with my marriage is struggling.
Oh,
My wife won't talk to me. Can you help me with this? Can you give me some advice? Can you give me some counseling? And his advice was, there's probably no hope. I would advise that you just get a divorce and then pray that God will soften her heart and there can be reconciliation in the future. But for now, I
oh
think
my
you're best to
God.
just
Ugh.
walk away. And so in that meeting with Dufresne that night, once my sister finally like spilled the beans, what was actually happening, like, we have been following our dad and we think he's having a relationship with, Drew's wife, blah, blah, blah. Drew literally stood up and said, "Are you kidding me? I
Yeah.
sat with you yesterday at lunch and you told me that my marriage was over. You failed to mention the reason why is because
Yeah.
you're with her now." Like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
Wow.
was pretty disturbing. He walked out and did not even listen to the rest of the meeting at that point.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. There's
blame
nothing
him.
else. Mhm.
What else is there to hear at that point? Yeah. I don't blame him at all.
So at the point that he like married her, was that the end of everyone in the family, like the siblings' relationship with him?
Um, no. So before they even got married, like right after that meeting in July, I left. I didn't go back to another service after that. And I did
Mhm.
tell him I was leaving too. I just said, like, I don't agree with you. I think what you're doing is wrong. I can't go along with this. I can't stay here. He told me I was going to regret it and that I would have to come back. I would want to come back, but when I did, that I would have to go through the office and repent to him first
Yeah. Yeah.
before he would allow me back in. So, like, essentially, it was kind of one of those, like, you can't quit, I'm firing you.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
like, I told him I was gone and he was like, never come back unless you repent to me.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Because, I don't need to repent to God, just my dad.
Yeah.
So, then it took a while for, like, my younger brother, he'd been gone already because he was in the army and stuff. So, like, he hadn't been around for a few months anyways. So
Mhm.
he never came back after that either. And then my youngest sister, she had her oldest son in the church that they had at the, not the church, in the school they had at the church.
Mhm.
And so she kept him there. I think they had kind of stopped attending services, but they were still kind of staying connected. And her son came home from school one day saying, that his cousin told him that his grandpa's going to marry his aunt and that his cousin's going to now be, I even get confused how all those relationships are.
It's so strange.
Yeah, super weird. So when he came home like that, she was like, "Oh, yeah, we can't stay anymore." So they
Yeah.
left at that point. So that took a little while longer. And then the oldest 3 siblings, so it's me, and then I've got 2 younger siblings, and then I have 3 older siblings.
Mhm.
So the 3 older siblings stayed and supported it, and they're all still there to this day.
Wow. Is he still married to her?
Yep.
So how many years ago was that?
My mom died in 2009. So like
Okay.
15. Is
Oh
that
my
right?
gosh. So he's been raising his grandchild. Like,
Yeah, and that's a whole disaster too.
sure.
My brother had to fight for years and years and years to
Ugh.
get the right to be in her life. And
Ugh.
every time he would go to court, he would win because the courts were like, this is, wow, holy crap. And so he would win everything he asked for, but they would not follow the court orders. And every time you break a court order, the only way to resolve that is to go back to court.
Ugh.
And that costs so much money. And so he literally spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on lawyers. And eventually he started posting his personal story on TikTok. So
Yeah.
he had little TikTok story times. And
Yeah.
my dad heard about those, and he told my brother's daughter that she had to tell my brother to stop posting those TikToks or she wouldn't talk to him anymore. And at that point, my brother just kind of took the opportunity to explain a lot of things from his perspective of what happened and how it
Yeah.
happened. And he said, I love you very much, and I'm sorry that this is uncomfortable for you, but I am not, and I cannot stop posting about this. I deserve to be able to talk about my life,
Yes.
my
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
And this is true. So listen to all these episodes. This is true,
Yeah. Yeah.
But she stopped talking to him after that. So he hasn't had any contact with her in the last couple of years.
That's so sad. And so it's just hard to believe that a parent could harm their child so, like, just like it's nothing. I mean, we've dealt with that as too,
Yeah. My dad,
you just can't wrap your brain around it.
it's so confusing. He did try to stay connected to my younger sister for quite a while. Like he would call her every few months and ask her to have coffee with him, and she would go. And I would always get so mad and just be like, why are you even entertaining this? What is your point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he thinks he's going to manipulate me because it was always around a custody hearing or something like that. And so he never does anything without an agenda. So
Right.
there's no impure motives. It's not, I
Mhm.
just miss my child and I want to have coffee with you. It
Yeah.
wasn't that. And so I was just like, you don't know for sure what information he's trying to get out of you, though. So why would
Yeah.
you even do that? And she's like, well, I
Yeah.
can get information from him too. It's like, okay.
Mm,
And
no.
but what information and what are you going to do with it? Like he was looking for information against our brother specifically, I think, and maybe other things too, but he's never once, like he called me one time, and I want to say it was like 10 years ago, and he said, do you want to have coffee or lunch or something? And I said, why?
Yeah.
What could you possibly have to say to me after how many, was like 6 or 8 years of silence at that point? Like, what could you
Yeah.
possibly have to say to me now? And he said, well, I have some things you probably really want to hear. And I was like, okay, like what? And he wouldn't.
Yeah, like tell me over the phone.
Well, it was a text. And I just said,
Oh, text, yeah.
if you tell me what like I'm trying to set some boundaries here. If you tell me what the subject matter is, I can keep it to that topic alone. That's the topic I will agree, maybe, depending on what it is, right? But if you tell me, I can decide if I want to discuss that topic with you. And then if you try to veer off that, I'll say, nope, I didn't agree to that. This is what we're talking about. So I just said, if you want to tell me the subject matter, I will consider meeting you. If not, I won't. The ball's in your court. And he would not. He refused. So I was like, I feel okay with not talking to him then, because he's not going to honor any boundary I have.
No.
So then back in 2019 or late 2019 or early 2020, I had run, it was late 2019 because it was Halloween. I had run into him at Walmart. I actually saw my niece, and she ran up to me and was like, Auntie Mindy, and like gave me a huge hug and was talking to me about her school and all the things she was involved in. And I looked kind of down the aisle and I see my dad and her mom, and I was like, oh, yuck. Like I hadn't run into them in all those years. So I just didn't really know how to handle that, and I didn't want to. But I did for the sake of my niece. And so they were walking real slow. I think they were hoping that my niece and I would be done with our conversation and they could just go and not have to stop and talk to me. But
Yeah.
my niece wasn't done talking by the time they got to me. So my dad actually like said hi and we talked for a few minutes, and like I showed him some pictures of my dogs or something. Like, I don't know, I just felt awkward and I didn't know what to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so after that, he texted me and asked if I would have lunch with him. And I was like, fine, what's it going to hurt after all these years? I don't really care. So I met him for lunch, and again, kind of same thing, like when he would sit and talk to my sister, like he has no remorse. He has
Right.
no apologies. He has no regrets. He doesn't care how much he hurt us. He doesn't care what he caused. So there's nothing here. There's nothing here for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I sat through that lunch, and then at the end he said, we're walking out to our cars, and he said, if you need anything, you can call me. I'm still your dad, And I was like, okay. And he goes, love ya. And I was like, love you too. And then that was the end. And then a few months later, my grandpa died, and I got a phone call from him telling me he had passed, but I wasn't allowed at the funeral. And I hadn't been allowed at my grandma's funeral either.
Because of
So-
the church?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah. And my grandparents wouldn't talk to me after I left either. So
Mhm.
I don't know that I even wanted to go.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But that's just a weird thing to say, like, you can't go to your grandpa's funeral.
Yeah, of course. So is your dad still running a church right now? Is he a
Yeah.
preacher?
Yeah.
Oh
Same.
my
And
God.
about how old is your dad?
Yeah, I was wanting to know that too.
He is 70. I'm going to look up. I use my calculator. He was born in 1952.
Okay.
Okay, and then
So he's 70.
And how old is your brother, or what was the age difference between them? Not that matters nearly as much as like the relationship, but I was curious about the age difference.
It's she is 6 months younger than my youngest sister. So there's like 32 years, 30 to 30 some years between them.
Ooh, that's icky on so many levels.
Right. And she'd been
Yeah.
married to my brother for just under 10 years.
Yeah.
Man.
So that's kind of, I couldn't do that.
No. My God.
Just the thought of my father-in-law in that way makes me really feel like I want to vomit. Like, I don't know how you switch that in your brain.
No, I don't either.
So there's another big piece to this where the day after my mom passed, my dad put his name on my grandma's bank account.
Yeah.
And he started using her money like that week or whatever. I don't know if it was the exact same day, but he spent her money. He wrote checks to my brother-in-law. He wrote a check to one of his employees at the church. He wrote checks to pay his own taxes. And meanwhile, my grandma is 95 in a nursing home, in diapers, in a wheelchair, and her bills aren't getting paid. So they shut off her cable TV. She couldn't get her dentures fixed. She couldn't get her glasses fixed. So she's got her glasses like halfway off her face because they're all crooked and broken. And she's got teeth missing. And she can't even buy her snacks in the gift shop. She can't get her hair done. Like, she's just, suffering because he's using all her money. Well,
oh my God.
I went to the nursing home to visit her one day, and I happen to have a client who worked there, a hair client, and she told me, she said, there's some HIPAA laws, so I'm not supposed to tell you a lot of things, but you need to go talk to admin. They're about to evict your grandma. I said, what do you mean? How they can evict? How can they do that? Where will they put her?
Yeah.
Like she's in a wheelchair and diapers. She can't take care of herself. They're like, we'll park her on your dad's doorstep. And I was like, that might be worse, actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I happened to have another hair client who was a prosecutor in the county we live in. And so I called her right away and I told her what was going on. And I said, what do I do? And she said, she gave me a list of instructions. And so I did all the things and she gave me the name of a detective to go talk to. So I took all the papers she told me to gather and I brought them to this detective and told him the whole story, everything that was happening. And so he went into investigation mode. It got assigned to a prosecutor, but not my friend. So my friend kind of was keeping an eye on it for me. So she would call me and tell me, like, you should call the prosecutor this week because she wants to drop this case because her own mother was in a nursing home. And I think she just felt like it was just like a innocent mistake. But I knew it wasn't because I knew how shady he was with money and I knew it was intentional. Because I actually had told my aunt that day, because she came to the hospital too. And I told her before we left, we stood in the foyer for a while. And I said, you need to make sure you put your name on grandma's accounts and get all that stuff back in your control instead of since my mom has passed. And she was like, oh, it's fine. He can't really do anything. And I was like, I don't agree with you.
Yeah.
But whatever. And so I had called her that day and I said, can you please come help me with this since you are her daughter? I can do it all myself, but I think you should help. And so she did. She came down and she got they had taken power of attorney away from my aunt and I guess you don't have to notify a person of that. So my older sister and my dad were on there and my dad was on her bank account. And so he'd been using her money for himself and not paying her nursing home bill or any of the other things. So I called the prosecutor multiple times a week and just put the pressure on to keep this, going. And so it did go to court and he did get convicted of financial exploitation of a vulnerable adult. I was the only one I went to every single hearing, even if it was just a hearing to change the date to a different day. I was there and I sat there and I ended up giving a victim impact statement at his sentencing as well, which was really hard to do because I had to stand there and look him in the face while I said it. But I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I stood up for my grandma because nobody else was going to do it. My aunt didn't even want to do it. So I was like, fine, then I'll do it.
Did he what happened? What was his sentence?
Yeah, sadly, it wasn't very much because that was not the first thing he'd done, just the first thing he'd gotten caught doing. So he didn't have a criminal record at the time. So he got sentenced to 4 days, but he really only served 2.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And he was convicted of a felony, but unfortunately, again, the prosecutor just had too much empathy where it wasn't deserved. And she allowed him to take what's called an Alford plea, it was literally the day before the trial because he wasn't going to plead guilty until she told him an Alford plea says, I admit that there is enough evidence that I could get convicted, but I don't admit I did anything wrong. So that was enough for him to feel like I'm not admitting to fault. And it was a felony, but they put in the stipulations that it would go down to a misdemeanor on his record if he completed probation with no violations. And yeah, so that was disappointing to me.
Either way, it's hard to imagine that you could be convicted of something like that and then just still have your own church where you are able to extort people and manipulate people.
Well, and the silly thing is, he literally got out of jail on a Sunday morning at 7 a.m. and went and preached to church service that morning. And of course, he shut off the live stream so nobody could watch. He live streams all of his services on it was a different platform before, and now I think he does it on YouTube. But yeah, he shut off the live stream so nobody could see what he said. I suppose
Well,
I could order the tape. Just have to do it under a pseudonym.
there's no reason to traumatize yourself.
No, I don't even want to hear it. I don't care.
Oh my
Nope, don't
gosh.
care.
So after all that, I guess that was probably enough to just turn you off from religion in general. I'm just curious,
Yeah.
quickly, how where you are now.
Yeah, so I do not I believe in spirituality. I don't follow
Mhm.
any organized religion. I don't believe in it. I don't like it. I I do, guided meditations. I connect with the earth and
Yeah.
ground myself. I have done a lot of therapy. I've been in therapy for probably 5 years now. Even before the therapy, I read a lot of books. Shortly after I left, I came across a book called The Subtle Power of Spiritual Abuse. And that really
Yeah.
opened my eyes to some things. And like I said, some of my younger siblings, like they got out a little bit after I did. So like I told my sister about that book and it really kind of made her mad. She didn't want to hear about that. And then when I started using the word cult, she didn't want to hear about that either. Like that really bothered her,
Oh.
but she came around to it. Yeah, now she's totally on board
Okay.
and
Yeah.
understands. But yeah, I think I kind of started moving through some of those things pretty early on, but didn't get myself into actual therapy till a few years ago. And then in the last couple years, I started doing an online nervous system regulation program called Smart
Mhm.
Body, Smart Mind. So it's based on Peter Levine's work in somatic experiencing. And
Yes,
that's
I've
been
been
really, really helpful.
I love his work.
Mm-hmm.
I've been
Yeah.
actually this week, I've been listening to a whole bunch of his just podcasts that he's been on
Mhm.
and ordered the book, the autobiography of trauma that he
Oh,
wrote about
yep.
his own life and experience. Yeah,
Yep.
it's really incredible.
Also Gabor Mate, I listen to him a
Yeah.
lot. Like he
Mhm.
has a lot of really good information on trauma and how it
Yes.
affects you. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the kind of stuff that I do to
Yeah.
try to help and heal. And I've heard you guys talk a little bit about like health issues that happen to
Yeah.
people after they've survived this kind of stuff, and I've gone through that
Mhm.
as well.
Yeah.
Autoimmune issues. I had cancer.
Mm.
I had a brain injury that doesn't connect to the trauma, but that's what helped me find the somatic work. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. Mhm.
um, even though I have had a lot of turmoil and it's been hard and sad, and
Mhm.
I don't have a lot of friends, I realized that I didn't learn how to make healthy friendships. And
Yeah.
as I started my healing work, I realized that some of my long-term friendships were very toxic and they were harmful to me. They were using me and not but that's what I was trained for. I was trained to
Right,
give up
right.
of myself and to be selfless and to not think about my own needs and only meet the needs of others. And, so as I've started to learn about how to put healthy boundaries in place, some of those friendships dissolved because they
Yeah.
weren't happy about boundaries being
Yeah.
put in place.
Yeah.
So it's been, hard. It's been really hard. And at the same time, I would never go back. Never in a million years would I ever choose to go back. Even though it felt like I had a community and you had support, like after you had a baby, the women of the church brought you meals. That doesn't happen now. Like when I had cancer, I don't have a support system. I didn't have anybody to help me or bring me food or bring me to my doctor appointments or,
Yeah.
you know, any of that stuff. So, but I don't care. I don't care.
Right. Yeah.
I would rather never have another friend again than go back to that kind of mess.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think that's often overlooked. Kind of, we've talked about this, I know, several times about the leaving, the action of leaving. For me, and I think for a lot of people, that was the easier part. It's all the stuff after that's hard. And
Yeah.
then, the stuff that really lingers, like the kind of learning different attachment styles, because we learn like, well, this is the way relationships are supposed to be. And then it's like, but no, that's not, it's definitely not the way it's
Not
supposed to be.
healthy.
So kind of like
Yeah.
relearning that. And like you said,
Yeah.
like some relationships will fall to the wayside, not because of anything that you might think like, oh, we butted heads or we had a falling out. Like, no, it's
No.
just because you're trying to learn this new, healthier attachment style. And this relationship was literally built on this structure that you
Yeah.
don't want to do, you don't want to use anymore. So it's like
Yeah.
either you learn a new way to have that relationship or it just doesn't work. And so like learning that has been, man, a challenge, but overall
Yeah.
good.
And I feel like the concept of forgiveness was super harmful for me too, because then like I just let people walk all over me and I just have to forgive them.
Yeah.
And not like there's no accountability, there's no repentance, repair, like remorse. Like,
Yeah.
no, people can just use you and you have to let them because that's you being selfless and you have to forgive and you have to follow God's rules, whether they do or not.
Yeah.
So I think that can be harmful too. Like, I don't want to hold a grudge, but I don't think it's okay to let people walk all over you.
Mm-mm.
Because the way that I was taught forgiveness was just let people off the hook.
And all of this does, if you wanted to boil it down, which you've already kind of hit on, all of this boils down to boundaries and whether you have them or you don't, like healthy boundaries where, where you're allowing yourself to be taken advantage of because you don't know how to set a
Yep.
boundary, and then when you do set a boundary, you feel bad or guilty. Like that's still, I
Oh,
know, a struggle for
I
a
still
lot of us,
struggle with that. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard.
I
It's
still
really
struggle with
hard.
that, where I know this boundary is healthy and I know this is what I need to do to take care of myself. And I feel so guilty.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
I know I shouldn't. So I just kind of
Yeah.
push through the guilt sometimes. It sucks. No fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like we were going to ask like any parting words or, things that have
Advice.
helped you. Yeah, I
Mm.
know. And you did mention Gabor Mate and Peter Levine and like the somatic work and mindfulness and stuff, which is like all stuff. Yes, for sure. Everybody should be looking at that. Is there anything else that you didn't mention or that you want to leave the audience with?
I think just that there is hope. Like even when it's a struggle, even when it's hard, it's worth it.
Mhm.
It's worth it. I got a little tattoo on my arm that says, with pain comes strength. And I just remind myself that, it's not always easy and it's not always something I want to go through. And it's easier not to change. It's easier to stay the same.
Yeah.
But that just wasn't working for me anymore. And so
Yeah.
as hard as it is and as hard as it's been, it is worth it. And there is hope.
Yeah. I agree. Do you agree, Matt?
I do.
It takes a little while before you feel like there's hope. For me, it
Yeah.
took a while. Yeah.
And it goes
You have
up
to
and
get
down.
through. Yeah.
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 It depends on the day. There's still days where I feel like I don't feel a lot of hope.
Mhm.
I don't always look to the future and say that it looks bright. You know, sometimes I just can't see the future at all. And I think that's
Yeah.
okay too. I think it's okay to just take it one day at a time and
Yeah.
do the best you can in the moment you're in, and don't worry so much about the future.
Yeah, and I think that just speaks to, the fact that healing is not linear. So there's just going to
Mm.
be the ups and downs and the ebbs and flows that you have
Mhm.
to go with, but hopefully if you're on that journey, like you're still coming out a little better each time even after the
Mm.
recession.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you guys a couple questions, and you don't have to put this in the podcast at all, but I was curious about your sibling dynamic because mine is
Here we
real,
go.
real sketchy.
I'm glad that you asked.
Are
Ashley,
you?
take it away.
No. You know what? My mic isn't working anymore. I
Oh,
can't hear you.
no.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. What?
Oh, you're breaking up.
Can't hear you.
Oh, yeah. It's
Yeah, I'm serious. It's you.
all over the place. Yeah, and we may not put this in. It's all over
I
the
know.
place, and it has done this. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, not with Ashley and I. We haven't
No.
had, not
Not
yet.
yet.
We haven't had our big.
It's scary though. Like I actually get
Yeah.
scared about that just because.
With me?
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
okay.
there's no
I guess that's
indication.
naturally.
There's
Yeah.
no indication from you that it's going to happen. But I think whether we leave this in here or not, I think I've learned that safe relationships require both people like I don't know, understanding the boundaries, like you mentioned, Maddie, or emotional regulation, like being able to do that and have conflict with each other and work through it. And like none of us have really like been taught how to do conflict resolution. And even though I've been out of it for a long time, I realized that I'm not good at it because it's like it has to be modeled for you. And if you just like if you don't practice that, like how do you work anything out?
Yeah.
And so like with the siblings, like there have been so many difficulties, and it's not that I think Matt's going to do that, but it's still scary because I'm still even figuring out how to do conflict resolution. So I
Right.
worry, what
Yeah.
if we have a
Well,
conflict?
and you were the first one to leave. And so then you were
Yeah.
blacklisted, right? There was a big smear
Yeah.
campaign against you.
Yeah.
And for many, many, many years. And that's what's happened to me with my siblings too. Because even before I left, I was always labeled as too dramatic, too, sensitive, too loud, too stubborn, too
Yeah.
everything. And then when I was the one who made sure that my dad went to jail for stealing my grandma's money, well, now I'm even worse.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at some point, and I don't remember when or why, but there were signs posted around my dad's church with my name on them, telling people not to get in touch with me, not to contact me. He also would preach about me from the pulpit using my name.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to hear one of his sermons, and I got so sick I almost died. I literally ended up in the emergency room, and I had pancreatitis. But like I started feeling
is
this
serious.
pit in my stomach as I heard him saying my name and talking about me from the pulpit. And then that feeling just got worse and worse and worse and worse. Did I get pancreatitis because my dad talked shit about me? Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. It seems connected to me.
Yeah.
Knowing what I know about how stress causes health issues, I think it was directly related. And
Yeah.
so I was in the hospital for almost a week. I literally almost died. It was so bad. And I stopped listening after that because I was like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do that to myself anymore. But I don't know when or why, but like, that whole smear campaign against me, and I was always labeled as the bad one, and nobody liked me. And so now on the outside, like my younger brother and sister left shortly, just surrounding the same time that I left. And so then we tried to sort of form a group of like, we're going to still be a family. We're still going to support each other. And my younger sister just was, I don't know, it was complicated, and she and I would get in fights all the time. She didn't want to have me around, and I felt offended by that. And my brother was in the Army, so he has some pretty severe PTSD, not only from what he experienced growing up, but also he was a sniper. So that's pretty rough. And he was in Iraq. And so he had a couple IED attacks, that he had to go through and save some of his fellow soldiers, like just trauma.
Yeah.
And so I'm helping him with some things right now that he's going through in his life. So we're spending a couple days a week together at least. And there's been a few times, like, because I've been through therapy and I recognize the signs, and I have PTSD and CPTSD. Yeah. And so I recognize it. And so then I'm able to not get like triggered by him, and I can sometimes help pull him out of it. But it's super complicated. And then we had an older sister who left for a little while, and she and I were never very close growing up, again, because our dad triangulated all of us against each other. Yeah. And she and I just butted heads a lot. But I had heard some really hard things happen to her, and she left. And so I kept calling other people to try to ask them to reach out to her, because I didn't think she would receive it from me. Nobody would call her. Nobody would. But I knew how hard it was to leave and be out there on your own. So finally I called her, and I was just like, I heard you left. Are you okay? Do you want to get together? And I was surprised, but she did decide she would meet with me. So we had lunch, and then we started talking here and there. And, but she said, like, it's off limits to talk about dad. It's off limits to talk about, our grandma and her money, and like a bunch of things she wouldn't talk to me about. And that's fine. I respected that from her. And, but she just, again, she has this viewpoint of me based on the picture that was painted. Even though I'm the one who is kind and empathetic enough to reach out to her, I did end up getting her in touch with my younger brother and sister. They didn't want to have anything to do with her at first, but after I started talking to her, then they did. And then she completely stopped. Like, she barely ever, she did get pulled back into the cult, but she's sort of on the outskirts now. So she's still connected to them, but she moved to Wisconsin, so she doesn't have to go to their services all the time. But she will still call and talk to like my younger sister, or that kind of thing, but she still doesn't want to have anything to do with me, because one time she had called me and asked me to stop telling her kids things, because they were lied to their whole lives growing up. They weren't told the truth about what happened and about why anybody left. And they were lied to about our grandma's money and, all of those things. So they're asking me questions, and I'm answering honestly. I'm not exaggerating things or trying to make anything sound worse. I'm not talking bad about their mom or anything like that. But if they're asking questions, I'm going to answer. Yeah. And so she got pretty upset, and she called me and she said, I want you to quit talking to my kids. And I said, no. And so she said that was a relationship ending conversation for her. But then there's been some other things that have happened lately. Like, I still just I'll text her happy birthday, happy Mother's Day, Merry Christmas, just whatever. Like, just, I don't know why, I just do. And so I guess because of that, she was like, oh, maybe we didn't end our relationship then. And so then she will text me a little bit from time to time, but it's always just self-serving of like, she needs some information about, like our mom's health history or something like that. So I think our sibling relationship dynamics have been so chaotic, I guess. I don't know.
I don't think there could really be any other way when,
Hmm.
you've grown up through all of that and had all the different trauma, and everybody's like experiencing all those things in different ways in their bodies. I mean, it's like I don't know. It's like
Yeah.
every person has got to do their own healing work and whatever
Or
that
not.
means for them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
or
not if
not.
they
And
choose
then you
not
I
to.
just
mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, in order for like
Yeah.
the siblings to have any type of cohesive,
Yeah.
like productive, good relationship. So we're still in the
Yeah.
middle of all that. I don't know where it'll end up for us,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
I think Matt and I are both like, well, we just have to do the best that we can, and hopefully things work out. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. So,
Yeah.
My sister and I were talking about this the other day because we had a huge falling out last August,
mhm.
and we've only just now started barely talking to each other again.
Yeah.
And this is the second time that we've had a huge falling out where we didn't talk for over a year.
Mhm.
And I'm very trepidatious, right? Like I
Yeah.
feel very nervous when I talk to her. I don't know if she's going to get triggered by what I say and like
Right.
just fly off the handle and
Well, see, that is what's not a safe relationship. You know
well,
what I mean?
yeah, but
It's like if you
yeah.
don't feel like emotional safety because the other person is not able to be regulated, then like that's just hard. But
Yeah. And so far I'm the only one who's actually done therapy. I did
yeah.
just I found a veterans program that would
Mhm.
donate some EMDR for my brother.
That's
But they
nice.
only did like 12 sessions, which I think
Yeah.
barely scratches the surface. If
Yeah.
you've ever tried EMDR, that's nothing. But it's something.
Peter Levine has that whole story as is the guy's name Ray or something? He was a veteran that had a traumatic brain injury um in combat, and he came back with all kinds of issues, including even Tourette's, just like
Whoa.
related to what he experienced. And through somatic experiencing, like he is so much better. That's one of the reasons why I'm drawn to his work, because the
Hmm.
idea of like working with the body rather than just like sitting and like telling someone your trauma, you're processing it through your body.
Yeah.
So if you could find somebody that like practices that might be great for him.
That's what I would like to do even for myself, because my therapist that I've been with for 5 years, she's just talk therapy. So
Yeah.
like after a while, I feel like just rehearsing the trauma over and over and
Yeah.
over isn't really as helpful anymore. For a
Mhm.
while, I think it's important to be able to say what you want to say. And like
Yeah.
my words were always controlled. And
Yeah.
so, and I'm always afraid that I'm going to get in trouble for what I say too, because
Yeah.
that's been an experience of my life. And so to be able to go and sit down in therapy and just say whatever and not worry about getting in trouble or if somebody's going to be offended or did I say it wrong or did I use the wrong words or any of that, I do think that's helpful for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm curious what you think about what have been more effective strategies for either of you to process some of the trauma and actually release it.
I mean, mostly, I think I've said it before, like, not that it's a replacement for therapy or talk therapy, like what you talked about, but doing the podcast, I
Yeah.
think has probably been the biggest single thing.
Yeah.
And then also, I mean, it's moving away from Russellville, the town where I grew up, where my dad still lives. Like that was a pretty big thing for
Yeah.
Liz and I, because I think we stayed less than a year or about a year. Yeah, it was about a year after we left. We stayed in Russellville, but then we moved hours away. So that was a pretty big thing. But as far as like actual therapy, I've probably done, I was going to say done the least in the family. That's definitely not
Mm.
true. But out of all the rest of us, probably wouldn't you imagine, Ashley, probably the least? I've done
Yeah.
some.
Yeah, but also, like with the podcast, you've been able to share your experience, which is a lot of what you would be doing in talk therapy.
Mhm.
Having someone listen to you
Mhm.
empathetically, is like really
Yeah.
important.
Well,
And
and validate your feelings and your
yeah,
experience. And I think
yeah.
you're getting that in the podcast
Yeah,
when I've
and like all the
listened.
feedback from people,
Mhm.
so I think that's valuable. For
I
me,
Yeah.
listened
it's
to the fire rat episode the other day with Sandy in it.
Sandy's great.
Fire
He's
rat
so
from
funny.
heaven.
I know, I want him
That
on
was
all the
so
time.
funny.
It's just like we just like laugh the whole time. Yeah. For me, I love meditation, mindfulness, huge, but also like I have had a really good therapist to talk through things with. And she incorporates, I mean, it's like person centered, talk therapy, but also incorporating like internal family systems and somatic experiencing. And all of those things have been helpful, like thinking about little Ashley. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's easier to have like compassion for her sometimes than it is for me now. So if I
Yeah.
can like look at it that way, that has helped me a lot.
There were
So
times before, like when I was even a kid, before I left the cult and everything, where I would have these like, again, this is why I believe more in spirituality than religion, but I
mhm.
would have these
Mhm.
experiences where, like, I had a dream one time that I, as an adult, went and found my child self hiding in the closet where I used to hide. And I pulled
Mhm.
her out and I held her and I hugged her and I told her, it's going to be okay. I love you. Like that's
Yeah.
something that you would maybe do in therapy. I didn't know that. That just
Yeah.
happened to
Yeah.
me like
Yeah.
organically. And I had that
Yes.
experience. And
Yes.
I also had an experience where I had a dream one time that I had an angel on each of the four corners of my bed, and they had their wings up like this, that was like
Mhm.
making a canopy over my bed
Mhm.
and like
Mhm.
over me. And this was when I was, a teenager and having such
Mhm.
severe depression and
Yeah.
suicidality and all of that. And I think, that was an experience that really helped me at that time. It made me feel like I have, I don't know, spirit
Mhm.
guides, guardian
Mhm.
angels, but like I wasn't
Yeah.
alone.
Right, yeah.
And
That's so
so,
important. That's a huge piece of the healing, I think.
yeah. So I think
Just
there were
not feeling
things like
alone.
that happened throughout my life, but then, now on this side of things, it's hard because I want to have relationships with my siblings, but they're not necessarily in the same place.
Yeah,
And so I
yeah.
think about you with that, Ashley, where you were the one who was on the outside for so long and you missed your siblings. And like
Mhm.
me for my nieces and nephews, like that was so devastating for me to have to leave them behind.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now some of them have grown up and I do have relationships with some of them, even though I don't
Yeah.
have with their parents. And so that
Yeah.
makes me really happy. But um I missed it. I missed all of it. Missed him growing up.
Yeah.
I missed all the
That's a hard
things.
thing to
Yeah.
reconcile, I know.
Yeah. It's pretty
Well,
hard.
we really appreciate that you did this because I know it's really
Thank you.
hard. It's not
Yeah.
easy, and you might have a
No.
little bit of a hangover afterwards.
Yeah.
I like
I've
to
been
call it the
taking
trauma
it
hangover.
yes.
Like,
I've
hydrate and go take a walk.
I've been taking the preparation kind of slow, like I just bite off a
Yeah.
little chunk at a time. I'll take a
Mhm.
couple hours and write a few paragraphs, and then
Mhm.
I do something different, like listen to a happy podcast or go for a
Yeah,
walk
yeah.
or go
Yeah.
out in my garden and put my feet in the grass. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is definitely but I wanted to push through because part of, I think I told you in our call earlier, like there's still this sort of piece of me that has this holdback of, are they going to hear this? Am I going to get in trouble? Am I saying the
Yeah.
wrong words kind of thing? And
Right.
then,
Yeah.
you know, I just needed to push myself through that. And as hard as
Yeah.
it was, and however many times I felt like I should just cancel, I don't need to do this. This
Yeah.
isn't important. It was
Yeah.
more like, you know what? No, I think this is another step in the healing journey for me. And it means that I don't have to be held to their standards, and I
Right.
can
Yeah.
tell my story.
Yeah. And I hope it's therapeutic for you.
Thank you. Me too. I think it has been so far.
Yeah.
If you like this episode, please go leave us a 5-star rating and review wherever that is. If it's Apple, Spotify, or another service, it's really helpful. And don't forget to subscribe so that you can get notified when we have new episodes and updates and things like that. Thanks, and we'll talk to you all again next week.